So I love to start my classes by just asking everyone to take 2 deep breaths, like just arrive. How are you? Where are you? Welcome.
Mhm.
Let's arrive in our bodies and feel the floor, feel your seat, feel your hands. Do you smell anything? What are you seeing? I'm gonna just invite you to leave whatever came before, like leave that behind or leave the rest of your day. That's gonna be coming later. Like give yourself this little bit of time together to nourish yourself. And on that note, I love for everyone just to tune in really quickly and set an intention for the class. And this can be the simplest of things. And an intention, I always say it's not about a goal, it's not about what you want to achieve. It's like, how do you want to feel? How
Mhm.
do you want this class to feel for you? And sometimes it can be, maybe inspired or maybe grounded or relaxed or just present,
Mhm.
engaged. What is there a word? Is there a phrase? There's something that feels good. I would say set that intention for yourself. And that way you can come back to it throughout the class. This series is called Whole Life Nourishment. We're going to be making a recipe and it is about that and about technique and about learning how to become a better cook, but it's also about how do we nourish all parts of ourselves, not just the physical body, but the mental body, the spiritual body, the emotional body. And
Yeah.
I think the kitchen can hold all of that for us.
Yes. Well, and it's such an interesting. We'll talk about it more once we're done this process. But how do we connect with all of that, and maybe free ourselves from some of the concerns that we sometimes have around it needing to be tasty in some particular way, or however it is that the actual food is showing up, and release ourselves to how do we feel?
Yeah, right. Let's just let the process be. Let's let the process be what it is,
Mhm.
and let's allow our bodies and our taste buds to guide the way today because we're making a recipe, but this recipe is super versatile and we're all going to make it slightly differently according to what we like and we're in the mood for. So, welcome, welcome. I'm going to introduce Leanne Brown, who, if you guys follow my newsletter, you might remember Leanne from a podcast episode that I did with her 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago in the spring, almost
Mhm.
exactly. And that podcast episode was all about nourishing ourselves in times of grief and loneliness. It is such a beautiful conversation. I will link to that in the replay, or you can just Google it and find it, or search for it and find it in my Substack. Um, we all go through times of grief and loneliness, even during the best times of our life. And then I think
Yes.
we all have stages, we have seasons of our life that might be a little bit more imbued with those emotions and we can nourish ourselves through all of that. I would love for you, Leanne, just to really quickly catch us up because
Mhm.
I met you, first of all, I've known Leanne, we met was it like
A
15
long
years
time ago.
ago?
I want to say like 10 years ago at least.
Yeah,
I
we
think
were
it was
doing a
2015. I
video
almost think it
shoot.
was.
It
Yeah.
was like we were both so in the food world. We were doing a video shoot. Was it for Taste of Home? I think it was for Taste of
Yes,
Home.
it was for Taste
Yeah.
of Home. Yeah, it was fun. It
And
was like a budget cooking thing,
yeah,
and yeah, it was fun.
I know I've lived many lifetimes since then, and I know you
Mhm.
have too, but you've lived a whole lifetime since we last talked 2 years ago. You are now a somatic practitioner, which is no surprise to me because
Mhm.
you've always been deeply connected to your body. I'm wondering if you can just catch us up really quick.
Sure.
How did that transition come about, and what is it that you do today?
Sure. I'll try my best. Yeah, it's so yeah, 2 years ago, I had quite, wow, 2 years ago, I had, I was still sort of feeling recently divorced. It had been less than a year since I'd separated, and technically, all the paperwork and stuff still wasn't done, all of that. And I was really learning about myself in this new way. And I was experiencing a lot of fear and a lot of change.
Mm.
But at the same time, I felt more like myself than ever before. And there was something really grounding about that. and that gave me strength even when I was feeling, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. What the heck? Like, I'm in so much trouble all out here on my own. There, I would go through that. It was like really intense. And at the same time, there was something that was still guiding me on, saying, it's going to be okay. It's really going to be okay. Because the other thing, I was sort of recently divorced on my own in New York City. I'm from Canada. My family is all back in Canada. So there's this feeling of sort of not having your community that was also very present. Even though I had been in New York for a while and had community, but it was like when you go through like something so major as a divorce, you sort of also blow up the community that you have in a way, because there's just so much disruption.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, my dad was also dying. He had been diagnosed with cancer that had reoccurred. He had a bout with cancer and then was okay. So uh, living in a more, he was limited in his lifestyle. And then unfortunately it reoccurred, and then he was completely terminal and we didn't know how long we would have him. So I was trying to create this new life, these new roots, and at the same time needing to head back home all the time to be with my dad. And that was feeling both like so this lifeline, but it was also very ungrounding. It was like whack, whack, back and forth, like what is going on all the time. And meanwhile, I'd also made a very, very important friendship with a man who I am now married to.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, who was also back in Canada. I'd met him through some friends. And when we first met, there was no like romantic intention or any notion of such thing. It was just this sort of undeniable connection of like such deep knowing each other. And so he was so stabilizing for me through all of that. But yeah, and so all of that happened. I was still kind of in the food world, but also realizing more and more that the food, that there was something deeper for me. And it was the somatic practice, this healing practice of really getting to unleash your authenticity, which is I think really what this is all about. That like every single person I meet is such a magnificent human being. Like I've never met a person who I don't like. Every single person in the world is incredible. That's the truth. What stops them from being incredible, feeling incredible, expressing their incredibleness is whatever is holding them back from their authenticity. Like I believe that down to my bones.
Yeah.
And so, and that was kind of what I was always doing with the food. It was like, here's this nourishment, here's this thing that's so good for our bodies. And then also that we can experience our lives, our understanding of ourselves and identity and so many things through it. But I had just reached this point where I was like, I'm not really able to talk about the things that I'm passionate about. It's like there's always it it just didn't feel aligned anymore, basically,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying in a
Yeah.
long-winded way. And I had to start to move, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. All these pathways to how to sort of become a somatic, be, do this work in the world felt so long, and like I'm too old, and all the limiting beliefs
Oh,
were like
yeah.
flooding through me. But I kind of felt it was like such a calling that I just had to do it. Again, sort of like with leaving my last marriage, it was like, this is the right thing to do. And even though I had to get through all those like, oh, I'm like feeling guilty, feeling like a bad person because I was causing pain in the moment, again, just all of it combined into like a deeper knowing that I now trust even more deeply of myself. This like sort of the small voice. Like there's so many ways that we conceptualize of that, but it's like our sort of deepest truth. And so, yeah, I really committed and started my own practice, started just doing all kinds of sessions with people, anyone who would come to me, and practicing on them, spreading the word. And then my dad died a year and a bit ago. And that was like, and it kind of opened up a portal, an opportunity also for the man who's now my husband. We decided we were going to kind of make a go of it, and he was going to come to New York and we'd see how it went. And within just a few months, we were like, this is it. Like, yeah, it's just one of those bizarre, undeniable things where in the moment of it, you're like, am I really having this kind of a story? Like this crazy true love? Like, it's just so clear thing. And then you have to go, yes, I am having that. Okay.
Yeah.
This is why it feels so,
Wow.
this is why people do these things that seem so crazy from the outside, because what they're experiencing on the inside is this like absolute like true north feeling.
Sure.
So yeah, that's where I've come to.
Mm.
And so now I practice that every day. I also have a business with my husband. He's been practicing yoga. He's the one who really introduced me to this practice. And I think we had this really important communication where we needed to come together. So we both expand our vision of what it is that we're doing. Like he was
Mm.
always doing this in his yoga and meditation practice, but it was almost like it wasn't named to be clear that this was something special and beyond a yoga class that you're having at the gym. It's something that is deep and profound spiritual, emotional cleansing and healing. And it works just incredibly well. And everyone who truly experiences it is moved and changed. And I
Mm.
was like, okay, we have to like figure out how to do this bigger. And so we've developed an online platform, and we're just having this spiritual experience of starting a business together and doing all of this. So it's been
Oh.
amazing
Well,
and
I
scary.
love, I love that story. And I think that is so true about authenticity. And so much of even the work I do with cooking as the medium, it is so that we can come back home to ourselves, so that we can
Yes.
get quiet enough, so that we can listen, really listen to what our soul, or whatever you want to call it, that lives within all of us. Like, what is that calling us to do and be? And
Yeah.
the creative aspect of cooking, we're going to start making the recipe in just a second, is for me like the artist's palette. It's one avenue inwards, and today we're going to take things totally full circle with
Yes,
you.
connecting with your creativity. That is, I think,
Yeah.
our authenticity. It's the part of, it's where what is essentially us, whatever that even means, sort of commits or connects to the divine and relaxes and lets go and goes, this is a new thing. Like, this is creativity. I don't quite know. This might be a little bit weird. This might be a little bit challenging, but this is what's here.
Yeah.
Something about that, like true creativity is like
Yeah,
expansive.
and it
Yeah.
requires detachment from any kind of end result. Like, if we want to play, playing is present. You can't play with like this attachment to how something's going to be. And that's a
That's,
lifelong practice for me, to separate myself and just to be in the moment and allow, allow ingredients to play with me. And that's what I hope that we'll do today together. And I also can't wait for you to, like I said, kind of bring everything full circle and
Mhm.
to sprinkle in your own somatic tips as
Yeah.
we're cooking, because I think that this is going to be so helpful for people who, for a lot of us, a lot of people, cooking is a really mental exercise. There's
Yes.
a recipe that's printed, following the recipe to a T, and you're making this thing. And at least for me, there can be calm in that process, but it can also slip into stress because,
Mhm.
oh my God, I have to do this for two
Yes.
minutes and
What's
this
next?
and
What's next?
this.
What's next?
Right,
Yes.
right,
Mhm.
right. So I think if like anytime there's a little pattern disruptor, which I think some of these somatic practices can be, it's like, wait, this is
How
just
am I
different.
feeling right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, we're just going to be checking in. How am I feeling actually right now? Again and again and again. And just to trust. So we all have, if we're doing this, we all have our ingredients, so we can trust that that's there for us. And then we can just breathe deeply, ground into our body, feel where your breath is in the body. For me, it's like quite
Mm.
deep in my low belly right now. And I just accept that that's where I'm feeling it, because that's where it needs to be opened. Wherever we can feel our body is sort of where something is happening that's important.
Mm.
Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's like, oh, I'm digesting. This is like the most important part of what's going on in the body. But we just trust that, feel into that, accept that, and then we can keep our awareness there. So I'm going to keep my awareness with the sensations that I'm feeling in my low gut as
Mm.
I just start with the recipe. I have peas.
Let's do it. I love that. I just want to comment on that because I like this notion of switching I have to make a recipe to I have to tend to a recipe. Let's tend to it. And that's how
Oh,
it feels like when you're
into the
talking about your
garden.
body. You're just going to be tending to that space in your body right now as we're
Or
cooking.
like as moms, Nikki, like when you're talking about play, I was like, oh my gosh, my crash course in learning how to do this is having my kid and
Yeah.
wanting to connect with her so much. And then remembering myself as a child and honoring and appreciating myself as a child and all the skills I had of presence and play, which I
Mhm.
now bring to bear as a grown up. And I'm like, yes, I still get to do this.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so for those of you cooking along, this is going to be fun because I'm using a food processor. Leanne can't find a food processor.
Yep.
It's removed, so she's using a mortar and pestle.
I've
And
got
if you're
one garlic
using,
clove here.
yeah, I've got my garlic clove, but as you guys know, if you watch the first class, the sheet pan roasted Caesar salad, raw garlic is a little too fiery on my belly sometimes. So here's a tip: if like you, raw garlic is too much fire for you, infuse it in some lemon juice. So I'm actually not going to
Ooh,
add that garlic clove to the food processor. If you are, you can pop it in and process it now. I'm just going to use this garlicly infused lemon juice. And
ooh,
since I'm eating this right away, that's just going to be a little bit gentler, which is kind of what I'm feeling like I need today. So just a little
I love
option,
that.
a
And
little option.
I'm feeling that too, wanting to be gentle with this part that is calling my attention and saying, "Oh, I'm tender. Okay, girl, I'm listening."
Got it.
So I'm gonna slice up this garlic and just put it into my mortar right here with the lemon juice for a couple minutes and just see how that helps. And
That's
use a
another
smaller
tip
quantity.
is right. That lemon juice is going to mellow out the garlic and make it easier to digest as well.
Love it.
So that's another option. The base for this sweet pea and goat cheese pesto is just a bag of peas. This is a 10-ounce bag of peas. These are already blanched. So I just took these out this morning out of the freezer. And I'm going to add them directly to my food processor, but of course you can blanch them. To blanch is just to boil something in boiling water. And then for peas, you just want them to turn bright green and then transfer them to an ice bath. And if you transfer them to an ice bath, they're going to retain that bright green color. You can absolutely use garden peas in this as well. We just planted our pea seeds last weekend. So it'll be a while for us. And to be honest, we don't often cook our peas. We eat them mostly standing in the garden because they're so sweet and delicious.
Mm.
But for those, you do want to blanch those. Frozen peas are blanched already. So you can just pop the whole bag into the food processor. Leanne, in my newsletter last week, I talked about lunch. Oh, herbs. Yes.
Yes. I was wondering, what do you think? I'm going to put the garlic and the lemon juice, just squish it a bit.
Yeah.
Should I add some mint in now, or will it just be so bruised up?
I would wait, but it depends on what you're looking for. I think that freshness of mint in particular is just so
Keep it at the
beautiful.
end with the
I don't
peas.
have mint. The grocery store didn't have it. So I'm using literally the oldest bunch of dill that somehow is still going in my
It looks pretty
fridge.
fresh still, actually. Just the bottoms, yeah, baby.
And I'm going to use tarragon. And actually, tarragon is one of my favorite herbs. Tarragon is quite strong. You don't need a lot. So, and the nice
Feels
thing about,
crunchy and like
yeah, well,
European. You're like,
very
oh, yeah.
European. Yes. And
Sophisticated.
you can always add more, but you can't take it out. I mean, that's like rule number one for cooking. But Leanna, in my newsletter last week, I was talking about how lunch is just one of my favorite meals to eat
Hmm.
alone. And I was talking about the
Yeah.
value of making a meal just for me. You know, I'm a cook, I'm developing recipes often inspired by all of you, my viewers and watchers and readers, but often I'm also just following my instincts and following my intuition when it comes to recipe development, but I'm also feeding other people. I've got two
Yeah.
kids and a husband. So I love the practice of turning a meal like lunch, and this is the theme of the class today, into a ceremony. And ceremony feels like a big, heavy word. And I'm going to even throw in the word sacred, and that feels like another big, heavy word. But what I mean by sacred, to me, that just means an opportunity for connection, an opportunity to connect to myself, to connect to the foods I eat, and to connect to something even greater, to connect to creativity, to play, to curiosity, to wonder, to awe. That's what I
For
mean.
whatever's there.
Exactly.
right?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
For you, what are some ways that you would turn a meal, whether to me, this is less about what's on the plate, but the way you go about preparing it or eating it into a ceremony. What does that mean to you?
So to me, yeah, ceremony doesn't feel heavy. It actually feels so inviting, makes it so much more fun. And so for me, a ceremony, and I feel this in my body, and I invite you to do the same because there's something so gloriously fun and visceral about this, is first slow down, take a deep breath. You are
Mm,
now in ceremony. Soften your body. Feel the like lusciousness of the breath moving through you, the comfort of it. There is no rush. You don't rush a ceremony.
yeah.
It's special, it's divine, it's important. And I ask myself with each breath, and so how can I move in a way that is expression of what it is that I'm feeling right now? And so if I could describe for myself right now, I'm feeling this really warm feeling of connection. I'm feeling a little sick to the stomach this morning. I'll be real with you. I came in with that. I'm about to get my period and I have all this disturbance down there. And so what I'm feeling is a sense of being this mom to myself and carrying that
Mm,
lovingly along the way. Like it's okay to sort of be the one in the corner who's like, I don't feel good. Help. And like that's welcome in my body. And I'm aware of her. I'm not ignoring her. I'm not saying this isn't convenient. You're gonna have to wait in the other room. She's
mhm,
right here, the one who's kind of struggling. And so what I feel is I feel a sense of like love for myself and
mhm,
compassion that's just like warmly surrounding me. And I connect to that and I feel into that. And so it's like, oh, and now I'm the mom. And what is it that I want to create so lovingly for my sweet girl who's having a hard time right now? And that
mm,
slows me down even more into my breath. And then it makes me want to be like, I'm gonna get a special plate out. Like
mhm,
every like my daughter always says, and I actually don't know where she got this from because I don't think that I really told her. But she always says that like your food tastes better than other people because you put so much love into it.
mhm.
And it's really, and I know it sounds something that's almost a cliche, like we say this. But what I mean by this type of ceremony is by actually letting yourself connect with and feel you are literally putting love into this. Like when you are connected to the sensation of love and you're doing this with intention, you are putting the energy of love into your food.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter if whoever is going to eat it can tell or not. In this case, it's us.
Yeah.
And 100% I'm going to be connecting to my own love for myself and this divine love that's flowing through me. But it's the true feeling right now of connecting to that we're getting to do that. Like at
Yeah.
lunch, we get to do this like sacred, super special thing right now instead of like just lunch. Like I'm always going to choose that to
Yeah.
connect into that. Ooh, how can I make this special? How can I make this fun right
Yeah.
now? What? Because that's how I choose to live my life. That's how I honor myself, my authenticity, my something more, my family, whatever it's sort of coming up. It can be so many things that come up, and to just welcome whatever it is.
Yeah. So it's about that tuning in is so important and allowing yourself to be where you're at. That's just where you're at.
Um,
And then
And then what
tending
do you
to
create
that.
for yourself where you're at? Like
Right.
this special one today about like the baby inside me is not going to be every day, but that's just today.
No, today I've got like I want to like dance, I want to play, we're in totally different places
Yes.
making the same thing. And that tending to ourself will look differently, but it's going to resonate with what we need.
Yes,
With the
exactly.
right.
And that's how you know what the yes is. And that's what makes this kind of ceremony also a somatic practice that is building your intuition. Learning how to
Mm,
trust your intuition. It's all of those things. It's in the realm of what are the foods that are going to go together? What does my intuition say? And then also, yeah, how do I relate to myself and the whole process as I'm engaged in it?
So I want to just tell people what I'm doing and what you're doing. I want you to tell people what you're doing in your mortar and pestle.
You got it.
So since for those of you who jumped in, I'm just using garlic infused lemon juice, not whole garlic in this, because I'm eating it right away, and the garlic seems way too strong for my system today. So I added the peas straight out of the bag. I added a handful of herbs. I love peas with mint, but the grocery store didn't have any, so I used tarragon and dill. Um, I have a log of goat cheese, and that's going to go in. Everything just goes into the food processor, if that's what you're using. Instead of goat cheese, I love the tanginess of the goat cheese with the peas, but you could totally go for a ricotta or any kind of other soft cheese. Or if you wanted to keep this dairy free, you can just omit the cheese and do olive oil instead. And then it becomes like a pea pesto. I would amp up the herbs if that was me.
Yeah, more Parmesan
And
maybe.
yeah.
Saltiness.
And speaking of Parmesan, I just have the pre-grated Parmesan. I love pre-grated Parmesan cheese. It's one of those ingredients where people get very on the high horse about, but my family adores Parmesan. It reminds me of my childhood. I buy blocks of Parmesan as well, and I think the flavor is amazing, but I'm using pre-grated. And there we go.
Grated Parmesan is so nice on popcorn. That's one of my favorite things.
Yes, us too.
Like from the big jar though, it's better than somehow it's everything better. I'm just kind of having fun with it. I basically put everything in to the
Okay.
mortar and pestle except for the herbs, and I'm just kind of gently squishing it because the textures are a little bit interesting. So I'm kind of going slow with it to slowly amalgamate. I'm about to put some pepper in, and I'm smelling things a lot. That's what I really, and I'm sure you do this, Nikki, too.
Yeah.
Is like just really get into, ooh, how's it smelling? And like right now, I have so much pepper on here, and that's blasting up. And then I have lemon juice, which is also coming through, and the just fresh aroma of the pea and um the goat cheese. And as I squish it,
How do you
I'm just
feel?
actually gonna once again take a deep breath and let that remind me to slow down.
Mm.
And bring that movement of slowness even into my mortar and pestle. And just sort of move in a slightly more graceful and relaxed way, just because I like how that feels. For no greater reason.
I'm using Aleppo pepper instead of black pepper because I have it. I thought the flavor profile would be lovely, and black pepper makes me sneeze. So
Ooh.
that's what I'm going for. Um, I wanted to ask you about pleasure. It sounds like everything we're doing, and I talk about pleasure a lot, but I do think that's one of the things that makes cooking for us so magical is
Taking
it
pleasure in it.
portal
Yes.
to pleasure, but of course we have to be open to it. Um, it sounds like you've already described how you open that door to pleasure simply by being in your senses. Is there anything else that you do while cooking? Because eating of itself, sometimes we forget, like that's super pleasurable, of course, but and the cooking process
Yeah.
can be a little bit more pleasurable.
So 100% it is to come into your body during it. Just come into your body, whatever portal you can, and trust that, oh, I don't feel pleasurable right now, but I actually know that I have a pathway to experience it that is basically guaranteed if I do these steps of coming into my body. Yeah. Like there's something trustworthy there, and we build that when we practice something. And you can do that with food, where you just know, okay, right now I feel like there is no such thing as pleasure. I'm so frustrated. Maybe I'm so had a crappy work day, and all that life feels like a burden. I have to make dinner for people, and I'm the one who just work like whatever sad story you have. It's
Yeah.
like that's there, and then we just sort of go, okay, and I have power. I have this power, which is to release my belief about that and just look at the food, engage with the food, and know that that will make me feel good in a little bit. Well, if I just allow it to happen, allow it to unfold, don't force it. You can just trust that it's going to show up. It always shows up
Mm.
eventually. And there's
That's why
something just
I always say, joy is not something that it's not a seeking or a striving. Joy is a bubbling up because it's always there. It's always there. And for me, I think this is like personal for everybody. But beauty is often where that can often be that doorway to pleasure
Yeah,
for
like
me.
art and like, or
Like,
like a beautiful blooming cherry blossom or something.
yeah, if we're talking about food, like the
Yeah.
shape of a radish. I have a radish
Oh,
sitting over here.
yes.
Or like the dinosaur kale, or the way the light is hitting on my countertop, or
Mhm.
a piece of music that I put on. Like that is
Yeah.
just a tool I use. Like, oh, this has been a shit of a day.
Yeah.
I know that joy is here somewhere. I don't need to force her to arrive, but maybe I can
It's like
like
you
get into my
gently
body and invite it.
coax her. Yes. And actually, you know what? Love that, especially when we're talking about pleasure. It's actually about bringing joy is always with us, but
Mm.
she only arrives when you're like in that vibration. So it's like you have to kind of coax her
Yes,
here
that's
in
what
a
it
sweet
feels
way.
like.
It's like, but it's like a what it like a when you're trying to bring someone hither. It's like
Yeah,
that kind of a loving,
a little romantic.
hey baby, yep. I'm feeling fun and relaxed.
Ah,
Let's connect. Like it really is that. And that's when joy arrives. That's when the lightness really arrives.
yeah.
When
I'm gonna buzz this, so it's gonna be loud. So now, if you're making this in a food processor, um, I'm gonna show you what it looks like. So it's pretty chunky at this point. I'm gonna go for a creamier dip because y'all, I'm going rogue and I'm not making a tartine, and I'll show you what I'm gonna do instead. I'm
ooh.
very excited about it. This is me following my pleasure right before I hopped on. Since I want something creamier, I'm gonna add a touch of water. This is such a versatile situation. You can serve it like we are as a spread. You can
Hmm.
slather it on crostini, like as an appetizer. You can toss it with pasta. This is one of my favorite weeknight meals. And I will put the garlic in there because I'll toss that hot pasta and a little bit of the pasta water, and my kids love it with lots of Parmesan cheese. Or you can serve it as a dip. And this is a really elegant way to have, instead of like, friends come over, it's like hummus or like cheeses,
Mm.
fresh, vibrant, herby pea dip is like a little surprise. And it's something that I love to serve in the springtime because it feels so seasonal. So I'm going to add a
It's
little
one
bit
of those things
of
that's so fun to serve because it has those conversations immediately happen where everyone's like, "Oh, why am I not having this all the time? We're more seasonal." Like I guess everyone just is so happy because it's what you were saying before. I think we started, Nikki. That a little pattern interrupt is just so great, and I think you and I both have. I think it's one of the reasons that we really connected when we did was that we have this desire to like connect something deeper
yeah.
through food, and definitely that like permission to be in pleasure, permission to celebrate yourself,
Yeah.
permission to seduce yourself at lunch. That's really what it is. It's the seduction of self ceremony.
Okay,
Hello,
so I love
gorgeous.
where we've gone with this. It's like ceremony, sacred, connecting to something just so beautiful, and like that in itself turns into this celebration of sensuality and pleasure, which I feel like we need to celebrate more than ever in a world that feels so heavy and
Yes,
so tight. That to me, it's
exactly.
like throw that cloak off. Nope, here I am. This is me, and I'm gonna freaking celebrate it.
Absolutely. Well, and it's powerful. Like it's when we talk about what is our power, again, in that moment when we're coming home from work and we feel powerless and that what we have to do is a burden instead of a pleasure and a joy, we have the power to decide I am going to make this fun. And I can't do that inauthentically. I can't,
Mm.
but it's something that I can build. I can open to it and seduce myself into pleasure. And to do that is to actually bring positive energy into the world and start to really contribute to changing those things that feel so heavy.
Mm.
That's how we do it. And it is powerful. And I think like it's political and all of that to take care of ourselves and
Yeah,
to
absolutely. It is
to take
important
care
to
for
look.
ourselves authentically.
I just tasted mine, and it is bringing me a
Thing.
lot of pleasure. But I needed, for me, I needed a touch more lemon juice. That tarragon in there, I love tarragon so much. It needed a touch more lemon juice. I wanted a little bit more Aleppo pepper. I'm thinking I might add a few red pepper flakes just for a little bit
Yeah,
of heat, and it
I like
needed more
that.
salt.
I
I'm
was
gonna
thinking
blend this
some
in.
lemon zest too.
Mm.
What do you think about that? That is one of my go-tos, especially when I'm teaching. That's one of my favorite, just such a small tip, but I feel like it has revolutionized so many people's lives. Just like add lemon zest to make things lemony. It's so
Yeah,
magical.
right. The power
So many
of
people are just like,
acid, I would say lemon zest, and then anytime something that you're making tastes flat, like it's just, I've got enough salt, but something about it just isn't there. It's often acid. So a touch of lemon juice, a hint of vinegar. You can, I mean, this is like for obviously for things like dips and stuff, but even soups, often at the end, that's what it's missing.
yes,
Like a
lemon zest,
little sparkle.
100%.
So I'm
Or
gonna
like
give
the
this one more
chili that you
blend.
suggested. That's sort of the other time. Like I sometimes have lemon and chili both do something to just brighten and sort of bring
Yeah,
a sprinkle of like
that's
heat
what I
and
want.
excitement. Like you
Uh,
can think about it like that, like emotionally. Like that's why like cooking is that sensitive, intuitive language because it's like, what does this need? It's feeling flat. Oh, it's like bored. Let's bring some party.
yeah.
It's like sprinkling some.
Oh, I actually love that. Let's get into that a
Yes.
little bit because what we're making can shift our mood. Like I know for me, when I'm having a day, what one of the things I know to make myself slowly, ceremonially, is toast.
Yep.
But it's
Yeah.
not just any toast, it's toast that's slathered in butter and sprinkled with cinnamon and sugar. And this is what my mom used to make for me when I was sick. And when I make that for myself, it becomes a form of mothering myself.
Yes.
But I think that we can think about then, like, what state are we in, and what food will either elevate us or match us or maybe ground us. You know,
That's right. Well,
the
and Nikki, what you're actually describing is really the basis of Ayurvedic healing. Like that's what it's about, taking these opposites and working with like what's in the, is it bitter, is it astringent, and how does that then connect to the physical body and all the way down to the emotional body. And that's how it is like an intuitive art form at the same time and really does like work to help and heal and align the body's systems. It's like if we are feeling this way, we need to often apply the opposite. And it's just sort of as simple as that, as learning and connecting with yourself like that.
so my pea dip is done. It's got some texture, which I love. I could keep pureeing it if I wanted to, or I could even put this in a high speed blender, and that would make it super smooth. But I want some texture today. So I'm gonna just transfer this to a bowl and then
This is so good.
dish it off.
I'm
Um,
loving mine. It's a little more chunky
Let
right
me see.
now,
Ooh, but
but it's
that
so yummy.
untoasted bread,
Yeah,
yes.
I'm pretty
Speaking of
excited.
which, you guys, this is why I'm going rogue today with no tartine, because I found in my freezer two of the cassava almond waffles that I just shared last week. And these are like, I have talked about this before, but my favorite lunch. I'm such a dip person. This reminds me of the character on Only Murders in the Building, but I love dips. I love a picnic lunch where I don't have to take out any silverware. I eat completely with my hands. So these, instead of doing a
I
tortilla, I'm going to
also,
toast these up and serve it. I'm going to arrange myself like a little picnic plate. And that to me is such joy. So I'm going to pop these in the toaster and then we'll finish off the dip.
I also totally love to use my hands only.
Mhm. What is a meal that you turn to, Leanne, when you want to brighten up a day?
Hmm. It's almost anything, but lately it's like making a sort of bolognese,
Mm.
which but it's not really, we just call it that, and really like meat and vegetables and tomatoes, but sometimes we don't even have the tomatoes, so that doesn't happen. Meat, vegetables, and either pasta or rice is sort of like,
Mm.
that's like the go-to. I know it's going to be so nourishing, And the process will, yeah, like awaken comfort and pleasure.
Mm,
And if I just take my time with it, and usually I do that with my husband, and yeah, that's kind of our go-to. And we'll have like right now we might do it with like a bunch of dill or something because of the season, and depending on, and it's really just not even that well thought out. It's just like what vegetables do we have in there, and that's what goes in. But it often ends up being sort of something that is special, that is seasonal, that is connected to maybe a holiday that we're experiencing as a collective right now.
mm.
Um, yeah, and which just, yeah, I notice that cooking something, like making a choice about what you're going to cook yourself, always grounds me in like the time of year and the place.
Yeah.
Whereas like if I'm just on the go running around and being like, I'm just going to eat this sandwich now, it could sort of be any time and place. But whenever I cook um at home for myself and make myself something, it's like, it's so much, it's just, I guess what I'm describing is the feeling of something being more intentional, and
Yeah.
how good that feels. It really, really does. Like, just to name that feels good in your body, you can notice that's a
Mm,
way that you can experience pleasure, is by knowing I am living and enjoying like my values right now. That's a
mm.
really good feeling, really good feeling.
It really is. And there's something about the productivity of creation too. And
Mm.
I maybe productivity isn't the right word, but like there's something that food gives us the opportunity to do. We're not all painters, we're not all musicians, but we all need to eat. And to be
Yes.
able to create something tangible in a world where so much is kind of ethereal and technological, to
100%.
feel, yeah, to create something tangible
Totally
and
agree. And positive, like
yeah.
absolutely positive, to eat and to make something that is good and of the moment right now. It's like a celebration of life. I think that is like when it comes, we can get so deep on this. This is what this little portal of it being this ceremony feels like, is the opportunity to have these major realizations that we are like dancing out the experience of life just through a meal and by
Mm,
connecting with ourselves. Like, this is sort of Mother Earth's bounty, and then the way that we choose to celebrate it by how we relate and invite her into the process and be like, thanks mom for making all this for me, so that
yeah.
I could then use my creativity and my human genius to add my spark of life to it and let it represent. And then I honor you and I honor myself in our connection.
Mm. So I'm just cutting up some, since I'm doing my little snack plate, I'm just cutting up, I have carrots, radishes, cucumbers. These are just things I found in the fridge. I wasn't intending to do this. I actually had these beautiful little microgreens I was going to put on my beautiful little tartine. I was like, I'll pickle
Ooh.
some radishes. And this morning I was like, nope, that's not where my pleasure is. So I'm just cutting up the veggies. Again, if there's any questions or if you guys have any comments or if you're cooking along with us and
Mhm.
making something, how are you going to serve this? Like, please pop it in the messages because I'm just keeping an eye on that.
I almost think, rather than bread, I'm gonna just get some tortilla chips and
Oh,
dip.
fun!
Like,
Nice.
that's kind of what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. So for this, I drizzled olive oil on top and some chopped dill because I had a little bit more dill.
Mhm.
And I'm just gonna spoon this right onto my plate once the um
Yeah, but then yes, and so this is a part of the ceremony I always enjoy. And there's something, it was definitely sort of a deep thing for me for a while, because I was definitely a person my whole life, and then definitely a mom who would be like, I'll for sure give everyone else the fancy plates and then I'll take the one that's not as nice.
Mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with that, actually. I think like there's a time to place, and in a strange way there's this like way that we just show our love and like honor everybody else. But in these moments it was like I would almost be like, oh, I'll just make it as minimal for myself as possible. And as I was just questioned that sort of instinctual reaction and go like, no, I am worth, because it was actually a desire to avoid like having to clean up or do anything, because it was like, I got to
Mhm.
do it for all these people, I don't want to have to do it for myself, and it felt like
Mhm.
giving myself some pleasure, but it really wasn't. So it wasn't long term feeling right. So just to make it beautiful, because I actually appreciate that potentially a lot more than like my kids or other people do, is I like
Yeah.
it to look beautiful, and I'm worth the effort to clean up after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's like I searched for so long for a mug. I wanted a mug. I love this mug and I found it.
Think about the way they
Um
feel. It's
I found
important to
yeah,
someone.
I
Yeah.
was in Cape Cod. It's handmade and this mug has changed every cup of tea I make because it feels like every time I hold it, it feels so special just
Yeah.
because of the mug. It reminds me to take that moment. I mean, I'm a huge tea drinker, and it reminds me to get intentional about it. Ooh, okay, so if you make these waffles, by the way, and they're in the freezer, toast them up, and then they get super crispy. I was saying crispy and crunchy at the same time. All right, I'm
Cute.
going to serve this up on a plate.
I am just dolloping some of the dip into half of my bowl, my nice big bowl. I think I noticed that about myself aesthetically. I like oversized everything and then smaller amounts. Like just
Mm.
feels luxurious that way. And now I'm gonna add some of these tortilla chips.
I'm gonna just drizzle everything with olive oil because that's kind of like what I like to do. And I'm gonna sprinkle everything, even the vegetables. And this is like a little tip if you're making crudité, is to season your vegetables a little bit.
Salt them. Mm.
That's my plate. This is my lunch, guys. I'm
I
very.
am squeezing some lemon juice,
Ooh,
a little bit of Parmesan because it's here. Why not?
yeah.
Put that over everything, even the chips. And yeah.
This is so my other if for those of you who subscribe to my newsletter, you know that the intentional cooking process extends over to eating. Every time my family sits down to eat dinner together, we take 2 deep breaths before beginning. My kids are now 10 and 15, and it's so ingrained in them that they just do it. When they were little, they would be like, they didn't
They
really
would
get it.
resist it, yeah.
And now we just arrive. And I love to do this at lunch as well, to sit before I sit. I'm kind of like crouchy. I don't have a stool over here, but just to take 2 deep breaths and be like, I made this for myself.
Yeah, exactly. I called it this is the gratitude ceremony.
Yes, absolutely.
For
Absolutely.
sure. And there's so much I think that we can allow ourselves to be sparked by it. But
Ah,
just to look at it for a moment and breathe and appreciate all that it is to you. And it's going to be something that's different to you than it is to me.
yeah.
And to luxuriate and appreciate that
Yeah.
feels so good.
And then when we eat, what's wonderful, I love that you called it a gratitude practice because that's what I call too. It's what I call it too. But it's like we are so privileged to have this food and to feel that gratitude towards it, and then to feel that gratitude towards our bodies that will
That,
digest and assimilate this food without us doing a thing. Like that trust and that gratitude for these physical forms just softens. I think it makes digestion better. It softens
yes.
everything within
It
me.
does. It does. Well, and so we can, going back to the beginning, where do you feel your breath in your body? Let's check in again.
Mm.
And so for me, it's still quite low in my gut. And then I just took a bite of food and I can breathe and really connect with how does it feel now to have that food there?
Mm.
And what are the sensations that are also there? And I was noticing, oh, I'm holding a little bit of tension. And so now I'm just going to breathe and relax that area a little bit more. Because just as you said, the more relaxed our body can be when we're taking in nourishment, like when we're eating. I think that's why, as a practice human beings, it's so good for us to eat um, either in a nice, safe place, safe, quiet place by yourself, or in company, because it's really important for us to feel safe when we're eating so we can take in and relax the body, relax the digestion, exactly what you said. And when we are in company with our family, with people that we love, we feel more safe. Just
Yeah.
naturally. That's the reality.
Mm. Leanne, thank you so much for joining me in this class. This definitely feels like a ceremony, and I'm so excited to sit with myself and enjoy it. And I'm so grateful
Me
for you all
too.
being here.
My pleasure.
Tell us really quickly where people can find you.
Sure. You can find me. I Somatic News with Leanne Brown is on Substack,
I'll link to
so you
that.
can sign up there. And I don't do a lot on there, but I have these. I have Saturday. I have something called Emotional Support Hour, where it's basically a somatic sort of group therapy experience. 9 a.m. on Saturdays. I haven't been able to do it the last couple of weeks, but I do it regularly. And yeah, I send out information. And then Somatic-Living is our membership program that shares all kinds of videos with all kinds of amazing practices, yoga, meditation, and breath work to develop your own somatic practice.
Beautiful. And I just want to do a quick announcement for the next. I do these whole life nourishment classes once a month. They're usually for my paid subscribers, but they're free for the paid subscribers. This month was a community gift to all. But I think next in May, the topic is it's going to be the first Friday instead of the Thursday. So mark your calendar. And I think we're going to dive into, or I'm going to dive into allergies, liver health, histamines, and some foods and some things that can support us. Because I know at least here in the Hudson Valley, May is high pollen season.
Oh,
My
yeah.
histamines go crazy. So I think that's going to be the topic, but I welcome any suggestions as well. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. All right. Mwah. Everyone
Mwah.
enjoy your creations in
Bon
peace.
appetit.
Bye.